It's just past midnight on the morning of September the 15th, 2016. The Revelations Easter egg has just been solved by the team of Nick and Caleb, streaming on Twitch under the alias of Big Heck 225. The cutscene that followed the Easter egg was, well, divisive, to say the very least. The majority of people in our community hated it. Or if not hate, then was 10 out of 10 disappointed for sure. It was fairly short, didn't have much revealing dialogue, and ended with the brackets to the story of Primus, just like Jason Blundell said it would. And the cycle continues. Or does it? In this video, let's take a second look at the Revelations ending cutscene, and propose a theory that maybe Jason did it again, that we were fooled for a second time. This is how the majority of the zombies community interprets the Revelations ending cutscene as it stands right now. Upon obtaining the blood vials from a different version of Richtofen in the lab beneath Mob of the Dead, as was shown in the last issue of the Call of Duty Zombies comic, the whole of Primus ends up putting these blood vials to good use in Revelations. Each character drinks the blood from the vials, presumably fusing the blood and the matter within from a closed-off dimension with their own. When the apothecans are destroyed at the end of the Revelations Easter egg, and Monty reforms his perfect world, he is surprised that our four characters are still around, that they haven't been faded out from existence. By fusing their blood with that from a closed-off dimension, they've been spared from fading away. While they are still present, Dr. Monty remarks that they cannot stay in his perfect world. They must be transported somewhere else, or be wiped from existence entirely. And his solution...
Ooh, hang on! Actually, that all works out perfectly.
Our characters are shown wielding the staves following their success defeating the apothecans on the last day of the year 1299. The following day, according to the Chronorium, Primus instructs the Wolf King to begin building Der Eisendrache before disappearing from history. We're left believing that Primus, now stuck in the past, will eventually die there, their story to remain dormant until the characters are reborn in the future, only to repeat the entire events of the story once again. This is known as the cycle, and it's the cycle being largely the reason that the ending cutscene was so disappointing. We did all that work, the whole story of zombies, all the Easter eggs and actions led us up to the point where we fall into the trap of a cycle. Now that is pretty frustrating. Jason Blundell and Treyarch got us the hype for the final DLC, only to have the cutscene leave us on a cliffhanger once again. Except this isn't really a cliffhanger, is it? We have our brackets to the Primus storyline, don't we? For this theory to make sense, let's go back to Origins. Specifically the Origins ending cutscene. Let me ask you, and be honest here, what did you think of the first time you watched that Origins ending cutscene? If you were like a large number of people at that time, you might have thought that the ending showed that the whole story of zombies up to that point was simply a figment of Samantha's imagination. Or that Origins was not canon and was a metaphor for the zombies storyline up to that point. Either way, what the community thought the ending meant when it first released was not the right interpretation in the long run that we know now. But people back then shouldn't be seen as being wrong per se. They were interpreting what they were given, led to believe one thing, then swerved to believe another thing once more information was provided. Jumping back to Revelations, let's see if we can't use what we learned of Treyarch's tactics from the Origins cutscene and apply it to Revelations. Well, first of all, what are we meant to believe? Clearly, it's that we're shown that the cycle continues. We can see that Primus is transported from Revelations back in time to 1299, right? Not exactly. Could it be that what we are shown chronologically in the cutscene is not chronological to the zombies storyline at large? That is, currently we are filling in the blanks within the cutscene using information that is implied and not shown. It's the same tactic used in the Origins cutscene. Now, the potential break in the chronology of the story comes right here. Primus fades, Monty says,
That all works out perfectly.
And we get a bright flash of a transition. When we fade back in, Primus is seen victorious in the great battle. Now this is where the major theorizing comes in, and there's a few different possibilities here. It might get a little bit messy, so let's dive right into the less extreme option first. When our characters fade out of the perfect world, they are not transported to the great battle as we are meant to believe. There is an extended time in the story of Primus that we do not have access to yet, that being the portion between the end of Revelations and the end of the Great War with the Apothicons. What takes place during this time is anyone's guess, and leaves room for Treyarch to continue the adventures of Primus somewhat in the future. Though if that's the case, the reason why these events are not mentioned in the Chronorium's timeline of the cycle of the zombies storyline must be explained. That can be fixed in option 2, where the cycle is in fact broken. We know from past zombies Easter eggs that were shown letters and recordings from versions of our characters that are not our own. They tend to detail in events that did not happen in our timeline, like Dempsey's hair falling out from radiation that we learned of from a radio in The Giant, or a life and death battle with Dr. Monty which ends in the death of Primus that we learned from a cipher in Revelations. We assume that these are events that took place in different timelines to the one we play in Black Ops 3 and are bleeding into the universe that we actually inhabit within the game. Now, what if we expand that concept to the Revelations ending cutscene? In this case, would it be so far-fetched to assume that at the end of the cutscene, when we are shown our 4 characters victorious at the end of the Great War with the Apothicons, that this is a different version of Primus than the one that we're playing as throughout Black Ops 3? Of which we know can exist due to those prior Easter eggs. That instead of the zombies storyline at the end of Revelations looking like this, it instead looks something like this, where the cycle is broken and Monty sends our version of Primus somewhere, to a place and story yet untold. In this interpretation, we still have our brackets to the story of Primus as we know it. All that we know of the zombie storyline as detailed from one page of the Chronorium actually happened. That this page is detailing the cycle of Primus, not one in which the cycle is broken. This would give Treyarch the ability to move zombies in a whole new direction with the Primus crew if they so choose, while keeping the zombie storyline up to this point intact. Treyarch knows how much of a draw the Primus crew is. We go back to playing them in DLC for 2 straight games now.
While it may be time to pass the torch to a new zombies crew, who's to say there isn't one more adventure as Primus in Treyarch's next iteration of Call of Duty Zombies?
But hey, that's just a theory, a game theory. Nope, not doing that, but hey, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I would love to know your thoughts on this theory, or any other ideas you may have about it, down in the comments. I saw a bunch of people saying across social media, Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube, that many of you missed the days when we could get excited about Treyarch's storyline theories, and I wanted to bring that back a little bit for the holidays. If you're watching this video on its release day, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas in 2017. And if not, I hope this video finds you well beyond. I want to thank Keegan for adding that Richtofen flair at the end there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. His Twitter link is down in the description, but either way, I want to thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you with another Zombies video coming sometime soon. Peace.